our interests are being protected by military action.
Constitutionally,
right.
like, I don't want to get too far, but like even we talked about mark and reprisal, that's actually in the Constitution.
Absolutely.
You can send in small contingents to do their
And that's what they do. In fact, if you look at the Marine hymn, from the shores of Montezuma to the halls of Tripoli, the first real action of the Marine Corps was attack on militant Islam. And it was militant Islamic pirates in the Mediterranean that were harassing European ships while we started getting U.S. ships. And Jefferson himself went over to negotiate. While he was negotiating, the Marines went in and took them out. And Europe was a little on edge because here's this little American nobody that just took out their biggest problem for trade. And
see, that's my problem with our foreign policy now, is we're not good at being the little American.
We're not, and we're not the underdog anymore. So when we do march in, it's pretty substantial.
Powerful, yes.
The problem is we never, once we're this big, once we're the superpower, it's really just two things. Once we're this big and once we're the superpower, it's hard to be small and light. And when you look at it,
it's hard to give up power too.
It's always
very
nobody gives up power. The only time people ever give up power is by force. Political action is force. It's friendly force. Whether you're voted out of office in this country, that's a use of force in a relevant sense. So that, I mean, it's the major reason for the failure of communism. If you look at communism, the theory is all this wonderful state's going to take care of everybody's needs, and the state will just wither away, according to Marx. Well, that isn't going to happen. What Marx never considered is, hey, you know, the guys in charge, they aren't giving up power.
Right.
They're going to wither away. They're only going to go stronger and hold dominion over people, and the people become slaves.
Right.
And that's what our president's doing now. He's consolidating his power. He's getting more power over people. When you look at you know, the desire to know our BMI index, know what we eat, know what our kids are eating in school. When we see
and he's not making this up. There's a food
safety act
that they want to know what foods you're eating. Come on, are you not adult enough to eat your own food?
That's right. This started for me, and this is one of the things when I really started taking note of. This is a funny issue, and it's really kind of irrelevant as to why it started getting me angry. Is I have a contractor's license, and I do a little contracting on the side, and the government started regulating toilets. The water flow of toilets.
I've heard that.
They don't flush. The lower quality or lower water, flush them 2 or 3 times.
So you're wasting more water.
Do we really need the government's permission to go potty? That's getting a little
I wanted to put a new toilet in, and they said I had to go and get
special toilet.
Well, and I also had to get a permit to put in my toilet because obviously I don't know.
We have friends in Canada that have the old style toilets. So, you know, we want to smuggle them down. I don't know if there's a penalty for getting caught smuggling toilets at the border.
So you're running for state rep, and when is the caucus?
The caucus is July 31st.
Oh, it's coming out.
10 a.m. We've got 10 days. This is a tight... Caucuses are fun sometimes because, you know, the problem with a real election, and I don't mean that to slight the precinct committee, but a real primary election is you ramp up for 9 months, you declare your candidacy in February, you got about 4 months of really hard campaigning, and so when you add that with the ramp up, you're looking at about 9 months of campaigning and fundraising, you have an election, and then you're right back at it doing more funding, more campaigning, more fundraising, to around to the November election. So you have about, on a local election, you have about maybe a year and 3 months to a year and a half of hard work and hard campaigning. And on a federal level, Congress never stops campaigning, which is, I think, a problem essentially with the way it's built. With this, it's like Randy Moore abdicated his seat 2 weeks ago, and we got 30 days.
Notice.
It has to happen within 30 days of him.
And you're saying there are 53 precinct committeemen.
There are 53 precinct committeemen, and it's roughly St. Joe Township.
And if you're thinking to yourself, wow, they got to do Souder, and now they get to do this election, it is so easy to be a precinct committeeman.
It is.
You fill out one form, take it to the election board. That's it.
You know, and that's one thing I saw in the Souder race. There was two precinct committee, or two of the candidates that got no votes. They were precinct committeemen.
So they couldn't even vote.
They couldn't even vote for themselves. You know, personally, I think anybody that's not a precinct committeeman should be running for office.
You know, I'm almost good with that too.
It just is, you know,
Mine actually is if you spend more than the office pays.
Well,
I'm a little concerned about that.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. And other than when you,
What's the incentive
I
to spend $1 million for a $1,000 office?
I ran for school board, and school board pays $2,000 a year. Capped at $5,000 by the state to get a per diem. In addition to the $2,000, it was about, I made about $3,800 to $4,000 each year. I rarely spent less than $10,000 to $15,000 for that seat. And the people that beat me spent $60,000. And the at-large candidate's a $100,000 raise.
Why would you want something that pays $4,000 just for, I mean, I think it was Jesse Ventura that I heard that from, and it made me think, because I'm an economics girl, it all comes back to money for me.
That is...
It's just a valid concern for me personally.
You have, in my case, it was having kids in the system, having that being important.
It was more important.
It was more than money. I didn't do it for the money.
Obviously not if you're...
Yeah, and it was, I never got rich off the school board. You just don't. You spend more money than you'll ever make.
But it was important.
There's an inherent, I can tell you the happiest moment on my school board career and the worst moment. The happiest was I lost a vote. The superintendent decided to move graduation 6 weeks before graduation. We had parents who bought airline tickets, or grandparents who bought airline tickets to be there. And this was, I think, about, well, it was 07. It was my daughter's graduation year. And people were up in arms. We had military kids going, deploying, that now we're missing graduation because the Army didn't really care about the ceremony. If you were enlisted, boom, and of course your next stop's Iraq or Afghanistan. So there was a lot of reasons to fight this, and I fought it. And we lost the vote 5-3, I think. And okay, I lost. I became very used to losing the vote and thinking about it. And that night, as I walked out, this girl I didn't even know come running across the parking lot, and I thought, okay, this isn't good. It was like in the middle of the night, in a dark parking lot. She jumped 15 feet away and hit me in a bear hug and thanked me for at least taking the time to vote and listen to them. And man, that was one of the most emotional, amazing moments on the school board, because you realize, you forget sometimes that your decision affects people. The other worst moment was we had a young man in the week before Thanksgiving in 2000. I think it was 2000. His name was Lawrence Norwood. And he was in class in swimming lessons at Southside High School. And for some reason went back to the pool after the class had left, and he either jumped in or fell in and drowned. And as we learned more about that episode, it was clear that we had issues with security, and we could have done a better job. But ultimately, it was an issue of wow, we didn't. The board itself, all the way up to the board, just didn't do the best job it could have to have the safest pool. Now I think, between Dr. Fowler-Finn and Wendy Robinson and what the board did to make that pool safe, and the people that are working in it now, and the way we hired a different consultant to come in, and they not only train our lifeguards, but they spot check to make sure it's being run right, and then they report back to us what they find. So it's accountable, and then there's a counter accountability to where people are watching people, and everybody's doing a really good job. And I would say right now Southside Pool is probably the safest pool in the state, if not the country. But knowing that system failure caused the kid's death, I can't tell you how bad that feels. And again, it comes down to the point when you're in office, it's very easy to look at the statistics, look at the numbers, because you're looking at the big picture sometimes. And you forget to realize that every decision you make affects a life. Everything.
Right.
And
one time.
And you can't make the decisions that make everybody happy. You're always going to tick somebody off with every decision you make. Somebody's going to not like it, but when you do it, you got to look at it, and you got to know from your gut that what you're doing is what you think is the best decision you made. And that moment, I keep his name near my desk, so I can know that anything I'm doing, you better be doing it to the best of your ability, because it counts. There's no second chances. So those are the two moments in politics that I think affected me the most.
So you're going to have 53 people, so people want to know, so let's get to some state issues, so we can see if they want to call their precinct committee man or find out who it is. And you can go to your election board, find out who your precinct committee man is, and you are more than welcome to call.
Oh, absolutely.
And say, vote for this gentleman, vote for... How many people are running?
4 now.
4. And they can still declare, I take it, when you say now?
We can declare, they can declare up to the 72 hours before the caucus.
Okay.
So theoretically,